Good morning, crafty friends. Happy Saturday. I am Beth Roy, an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, and welcome to my craft room. So this morning for coffee and a card, I thought I would use this new stamp set called Christmas Barn. It is intended for winter, but I'm going to show you some fall cards with it and another way to use this stamp set, because I love barns and just outdoor country settings. So I love this stamp set, and I think you can use this barn for more than just winter. So if you come in, say good morning. If you're new here to my page or my live, say hi and let us know where you're coming from. Good morning, Linda. I had a little bit of technical difficulties this morning. My computer took 2 hours to update, so I'm just trying to log in over here on my laptop so I can see comments. But please feel free to say good morning, and I'm going to try to catch up here in a second. I know a lot of people have been having issues with Facebook Live. So I am facing down because I've noticed the last couple times I've gone live, I haven't been able to switch my camera. So I went ahead and started facing down to my page. So like I said, I'm just slowly waiting on my laptop to come up. But if you come in, do say good morning. So I have some things ready to go, and of course, some things you're going to help me with this morning. So I've used Christmas Barn, and here are 2 of the cards that I've made. These have watercolor. So I love this layout. I've done one in landscape and one in portrait, but I love this little element here. It's like a banner. I think some people call it a fishtail. I just call it a banner. But I do like this little element. So I wanted to layer on top of it. Oh, thanks for letting me know, Linda. I know, I feel like I've had problems with notifications since, for so many months. It's kind of unreal. I don't know. Facebook is doing a lot of updates, and so you may have seen that. My page, I don't believe, has updated yet. I'm not sure. So some things update on the desktop and not on the app, and so a lot of people have been having a ton of trouble. So I'm hoping I miss all those things, but I've been able to go live, so I'm going to be thankful for that. Thank you, Linda. So these are two of the cards that I made, and we're going to make one of these today. So we're gonna just, I guess, wait a few seconds here and see if my notifications will go out. And like I said, if you pop in, say good morning. I'm trying to view the comments on my phone, so I'm hoping that those are working. So today we're going to do one of these 2, and you can pick which layout you want to do. And then I have a couple other cards too. So I did this card, and this was colored with blends. And then I used a blending brush to put on the balmy blue. And this is another one of my favorite sets in the new mini. And that is called Perched in a Tree, and it does have dies. And it has these 2 leaves, and then I stamped my textures on top. And then I'm not sure what this die is. It looks like a leaf that goes with this branch. And so I just kind of use that as well to kind of fill in. Good morning, Vicki. Yeah, I had some technical difficulties this morning too, so So on this one, I used blends and I kept it pretty simple with some die cut layers. And then this one I colored with the watercolor pencils. And then I just cut around a tree and popped it up to make it a little bit 3D. So there's watercolor, blends, and then the watercolor pencils. So I really had fun with this set. And today I thought we would do some watercoloring since it's World Watercolor Month in July. So we're going to pick one of these two. And I'll bring these back in. I know it's probably hard. There's not a lot of people on yet. Vicky's favorite is the one with the watercolor pencils. I like that one too. I didn't activate the pencils, which you could watercolor with those as well. For these, I used the ink pad. And there is a trick if you want these trees to look more watercolored. I'll tell you about that, but I didn't actually do that on my cards. So what I used for this card is I used Christmas Barn. And yes, this could be snow, but you could color it as grass as well. I used Knit Together. I love this big background stamp. When I think of fall, I think of, I don't know, sweaters and warm blankets. So I liked this to add a little bit of texture to my card. And then for my trees, I used the Beauty of Friendship. And for my greeting here, I used the Happiness Abounds because I like the fonts in this set. Yeah, I can understand that, Linda. I know my hands hurt when I'm done, so I can't imagine if I had arthritis too, and I probably will eventually from all the coloring. But I can understand that. So I'm going to show the watercolor technique today with ink pads and our water painters. And I'm going to tell you all those supplies. Oh, okay, Vicki. The barn set. Okay, let's see. It looks like I'm live. This thing. Technology. We love it when it works, and it stinks when it doesn't. Make sure that's muted. All right, looks like I can finally maybe see the comments. Well, hopefully more people will be able to come in. And let me make sure I didn't miss anything because I can finally see the comments. Okay, so we'll just keep going along and hope that people can find me. And if you're watching the replay, just say hi and type replay and let us know. So we can make a thank you card today or a birthday card. Obviously, I'm going to let you guys choose that. But I am going to show you how I made this. So the first thing I need to know is which layout would you like to do? Would you like to do the landscape? Or would you like to do the more layered version, which they have all the same components. This is just layered right on top of each other, the portrait version. So... and then I'm going to tell you, we're going to start stamping and I'm going to show you everything that I did. So we did a little masking. I did a little masking. We're going to do a little masking today. Oh no, Linda. I totally feel you. Technology and I aren't friends either. I feel so challenged by technology, and I think I'm a pretty smart person, but I just feel like what seems like it should be easy isn't always. So, you know, we would love to make everything easy, but it just isn't, or at least it isn't for me. Good morning, Pam. Thanks for joining us. So Linda likes them both. Vicki says landscape and Pam says landscape. So let's just do landscape. I liked this just because everything was piled on top of each other, and I like that. So we're going to recreate this one, and of course we could do the colored card base. It doesn't matter which way we do that, but I'm going to show you all these components. So first thing, I want to do this. So I have the Fluid 100 watercolor paper, and this is from Stampin' Up. It's 5 by 7. So what I do is I cut mine in half. So this is 5 by 3.5, and that's what I'm going to use to stamp my barn and my trees. And then when you're watercoloring, if you want a no-line watercolor, then by all means, you can stamp in one of these classic inks. However, these are water-based, so they react if you're going to add water. So if that's not the look you're going for, you're going to want to use one of the StazOns. So yes, I have watercolored with the classic inks. There's no law that says you can't. In the crafting world, give it a go. You can try anything you want to try. But if you want those lines to stay stamped and stay where they are and not smear, you're going to want to use one of the StazOns. So I have picked the Saddle Brown StazOn. You could, if you have jet black, that's fine to use too. But since I was doing a fall theme, I really wanted to use the brown color, so I just felt like it was a little more cohesive. So I'm going to put this off to the side. And of course, I have a ton of ink pads here. I'm not even sure which colors I used where, but we have a red barn. Is everyone okay with a red barn? That's just always my go-to. I love a red barns. But you could also watercolor it gray, or I guess whatever color. One of our neighbors has a bright green barn. So, you know, I guess you could choose whatever color that you like. And I do have, this is watercolored, so we're going to stamp that, and then I'm going to show you how I did this other background too. Pretty easy. I just stamped it and cut it to size. So, I don't think this is a hard card, and I honestly think, it is kind of simple stamped. I did use a die to cut this piece. No, this one I cut with scissors. The other one, I used my die to cut that piece. So you could easily recreate this with a trimmer and just scissors. I didn't use any special dies to cut around my watercolored image. I literally used my scissors and just did a free form and how I wanted it. So let's get this stamped. Throw this off to the side. And I'm going to use these water painters. Now they come in a set of 3. I'm just going to use the medium and the small. And I love these just because they hold the water. It helps with the mess. And I have some paper towels here. I like to use this, a bunch of paper towels underneath my watercolor paper just to kind of protect my grid paper, because later on I'm going to want to put stuff on there to assemble it, and I don't want it to be soaked. I've also seen people use the mat that is with the Stamparatus, the foam mat that has the, it's slick. I'm not even sure what material it is, but it's slick. You can wipe it off. You can buy it as an additional thing to go with your Stamparatus. I've seen people use that as well because they can just wipe it off. So completely up to you how you protect your surface, but I do recommend protecting where you're working so that later on when you're assembling your cards, you're not sticking them on wet things. I also have an extra paper towel over here to clean these out. So before we do this part, when I stamp, I'm going to use my Stamparatus, and I want to show you also how to clean the StazOn off. So let me grab my Stamparatus here. Sorry, I hit my cord. I'm trying to move my cord here. so I can stop jiggling my phone around. Okay, so I'm going to put this in here. And I'm going to move it out just a little bit because I don't want it on the hinge. Now, StazOn ink requires a special cleaner. So you can see mine stained from that brown StazOn ink. StazOn ink will stain your photopolymer stamps. Good morning, Tracy. Glad you could join us. I'm just getting started. 20 minutes in, we've had difficulties. Everyone's having technical difficulties this morning. So when you use StazOn ink, you need this StazOn cleaner, and you do not want it to sit very long on your photopolymer stamps. So I'm just kind of putting this where I want it to go. And because I want my trees, I'm going to scoot it over a little bit. I want a tree over here, and I'm going to cut around it. So for my trees, you have two sizes here in this Beauty of Friendship, and I decided to use the smaller one just because I felt like it was easier to use. So let's see. You can do it like this and get a little more trees around, or you could just do a couple. So you could also stamp it this way. It fits fine, and then just stamp one tree or one big tree behind it. So do you guys want to do the same exact layout that I had with 4 trees, or do you just want to do one big tree behind it and the barn? Tracy, I completely understand. Yep, Pam, I understand. I have heard that as well from some people. But if you clean, now what you don't want to do, and this is true, this StazOn cleaner can be harsh on these photopolymers. But I have watched many other companies, other stampers, lots of people, and they use StazOn with photopolymer. What you need to understand is if you use the StazOn with it, number one, it's stained. It's not going to clean off 100%. I use the StazOn cleaner, I wipe it off, and then you can wash them with soap and water in your sink, mild soap, or I just use my Stampin' Scrub and I re-clean it with my spritz, my Stampin' Mist. Let me get the name out here, and my scrub. So if you want a watercolor, you're gonna have to use StazOn. I just think a lot of people like to leave this on their stamp to try to help keep it from staining. And if you let that sit for a long time, it can deteriorate that certain material. So that's my warning, is I'm going to show you how I clean mine. I haven't had any of mine be ruined for life. So I think if you let it sit, and you don't properly take care of it, then you could maybe have some issues, but I'm still going to use my stamp and have fun with it. And I want to watercolor with this barn, and I don't want to take the chance of smearing all the lines. And like I said, you could stamp it in a light brown and do a no-line watercolor. But because I want all of those details to stay really crisp and I don't want it like that, I'm just going to use the StazOn ink. So I can do it this way. And this is how I've kind of planned mine out. And I could do a big tree back here. That's more for portrait though. I guess we could still do a big tree if you wanted to do it this way. It just, this seems too big when I do it landscape. It seems too big in relation to the barn. So I used this smaller one, and to plan it out, I just kind of put my barn straight, and then I just made sure I had enough room where I would want those trees to be. And that's kind of how I planned it. Yeah, Pam, I still use it. Like I said, I've watched many, many, many crafters, and I think it's just your preference, really. If the staining bothers you, then you're probably not going to do this technique in watercolor, or you're going to pick a stamp that's red rubber. But I'm just going to love my stamps and use them anyways. And I'm okay that it's stained. I'm okay with that. So this is the watercolor paper. So it looks like very vanilla, if you can see. I know sometimes it's hard to see on screen, but the watercolor paper has more of a very vanilla tone. So all of my cards today have very vanilla instead of basic white. So I'm just going to open this. This is the saddle brown color. Like I said, if you have jet black, you can use that one. And it has this plastic piece that protects your linen pad. These are not like the foam pads on our other inks. And you want to make sure you keep that because that helps this not evaporate and dry out. And I just re-inked this, so it might be a little juicy. There's a little something on my stamp there. So I'm just going to ink that up. And I'm using the Stamparatus because I want to make sure I get a really good impression on this watercolor paper. So I'm just going to hold it down. I do too. Good morning, Dad. Thanks for joining us. Vicki said one large evergreen. I guess we could still do one large one behind it. I don't know why. I just now saw your comment, Vicki. Sorry about that. So there's definitely different ways that you could turn your card and get more out of that space. I just wanted to make sure I had enough room for my trees. And I think I stamped this up a little further than I did the other one. That's okay. It's okay if it doesn't look exact. Okay, so let's see how well this stamped. I'm just taking my time because it is sticking to my paper. And this side didn't even go. Maybe it's my magnet too close. So I'm gonna ink it again. For whatever reason, this other side didn't stamp. That's okay. I'm just going to ink it again, and it's probably me. It's probably user error here. And I'm just rubbing my fist over this because I really want this to transfer. The watercolor paper is textured. Well, I'm just messing this one up. Here, let's start over. I think you can flip this over. I think you can use both sides, but I'm just going to start over because I don't like how it's stamping. I did re-ink my pad because I hadn't used it, but it seemed really dry. So I may try the opposite side of that, but we'll just go with it. So let's see. I don't remember where I had it, so we're just going to guess. And that looks good. That'll work. Let's try it this way and see if it stamps better. So I did stamp my other barns that I watercolored. I did stamp them a few times. That's why I re-inked it. I thought it would work a little bit better. But like I said, it's probably user error, or it could be my table. My table has a lot of give to it, so sometimes I have to work a little bit harder when I'm stamping. So yes, Tracy, I love Very Vanilla for fall as well. I think it's such a soft color. I like it for lots of different occasions too, but I do like it for fall. I just think it works so well with all the reds. And my favorite is when those bright yellow trees. Those are my favorite. So I'm just holding this down. I'm trying to get it to stamp really well. Yep, I just checked. My foam is in there. Sometimes that's the issue. And like I said, it's textured, so you just, oops. You just want to give it some pressure. You want it to really get a nice image. I'm going to ink it one more time. Let's see if I can get it going here. There we go. Now that is good enough. We are going to watercolor it, so I'm not too worried about if it's 100% perfect. And then, now, on this original, I actually did the tree trunks, or the whatever, the tree part, the bark, in the StazOn. But then I realized I didn't watercolor that part, so I didn't really have to do that. I originally did it because I was going to do a technique. So I'll tell you about that technique, but first I want to show you how I'm going to clean this. So I have it on this, and I have this cleaner. And I want to give another little warning here. This StazOn cleaner, I'm not sure. I know StazOn, it's more of a permanent alcohol ink. So this is a special cleaner. We don't use the Stampin' Mist on the StazOn. But I am going to warn you. One time I was cleaning one of my red rubber cling stamps with this, and this little thing accidentally popped out, and it got everywhere. I mean, tons, like half the bottle, went everywhere. And it got onto my cling sticker that, you know, that holds your stamp onto your block, and it actually took the sticky away, and I had to use one of the cling adhesive things that we sell to put my cling back onto where my label was. So just warning, don't squeeze too hard, just take your time. It just has that little bit, you just rub that over. And a lot of people leave this on their stamp because they want that ink to get pulled off. But photopolymer, because there is a worry that it could damage it, I don't let it sit very long. And I know a lot of people don't like using baby wipes, but I use a baby wipe to soak it up. And then it's ideal if you take it to the sink and wash it with a mild soap and water. Not something that's going to be harsh and damage your stamp. But I just peel mine off of this and I clean it right in my Stampin' Scrub. So I'm just wiping that cleaner off because I don't want it to stay on my stamp. And I know a lot of people disagree with using baby wipes, but that's what I'm using. I'm using an unscented baby wipe. You could use one of those cleaning cloths, a damp cleaning cloth. But I find those leave a lot more lint than my baby wipe. And I'm going to clean it now on my Stampin' Scrub. So I'm just peeling that off and cleaning it like I normally would. Because I do love this stamp. I don't want anything to happen to it. Now, if I was making a ton of the cards, maybe I want to make a set of cards, I would stamp all my barns and then clean my stamp and then watercolor. So if you're making a set of cards, I would do it that way. I also have my chamois here. Like I said, I don't want to ruin my stamp, and I certainly don't want to tell you anything that's going to ruin your stamp. But you have to have a special cleaner. So I've cleaned it. It's stained. And you can also dab it on your chamois. So you just want to make sure that cleaner gets off completely. let me put that away. And then we're going to do our trees. So originally, when I made my cards, I stamped my tree trunks in the saddle brown stays on as well. But then I didn't do the water technique. So I made a mask for my barn so that the trees will be behind it. So I just used that new masking paper that is in the annual catalog. And I can reuse this several times. And then once I stamped this, I just used my scissors and I trimmed extremely close. You want to go almost inside the line of your stamped image so that you don't have too much space here and you get a line. So we want to be able to press really hard. And I didn't use my Stamparatus when I did those, but you certainly could. Really, Pam, you use stays on everything? Even with the, see, what I hate, and I don't really even like to use stays on, but I do if I'm going to watercolor and I want my image to stay and not smear, is I hate using the cleaner. I hate that how you clean them is different from, you know, just the easy ice stamp and mist spritz and you rub it and go. So I'm going to move some things out of my way here because I have too many things in front of me. So I've put my mask on. Now these I did not use the Stamparatus, but I stamped on top of here because it was just easier to stamp all on this surface. It already has my foam mat and it's ready to go. One thing that the technique I was going to show you, and the reason why I originally stamped this in Stays On was because I didn't want this to smear. And there's a technique where you can stamp your stamp, but after you ink it, you spritz it with your spritzer with a little bit of water, and it kind of just bubbles that ink up on your stamp, and then when you stamp, it looks watercolored. So I thought about doing that, but this stamp set has so many details that I felt like I didn't have to do that technique. So that's one of the reasons why I stamped this in the Stays On, because I didn't want it to smear when my ink ran. So I'm just going to stamp it since I didn't do that technique, and I will gladly show you that technique if you would like. I was just going to use soft suede and then stamp my leaves. So sometimes when I'm planning things out, then I change it up on myself halfway through the card. Anyone else do that? Or is it just me? So just trying to get this on my block here. And I only inked it a little ways, and I'm just going to stamp around like this around my barn. Vicky, I knew you would understand. Of course, you often see my my dilemma and thought process. Maybe it just comes with the territory, right? It's like I have all these things planned. I wanted to make sure I jam-packed this with all kinds of tips and techniques for you. So we'll just go with soft suede. And maybe I'll do a short tip video on how to do the spritzing, because it's definitely a technique to do, and it is fun. Okay, so I'm just going to pick this up, and I think I'm going to stamp this off because it's really dark. What did I do with my scrap sheet here? So I'm going to move this plate because we don't need it right now. I'm just using the Stamparatus as my stamping surface. I'm going to bring this in and I'm going to stamp off, and then I'm going to stamp this right here. Whoops. I think that's light enough. I want those yellows. I kind of want it to show through, but I want those yellows to be my focus. And you don't really need the magnet. Now remember, I put that mask on the barn, so I don't have to worry about where I'm stamping and the fact that I'm stamping over top of that area. And then I'm going to do one over here. So this could be a great tree for a winter scene too, after all the leaves have fallen off. And I am going to use that smaller one again, but you certainly could use the large one like I did here. I just feel like because we're cutting this out, it kind of overwhelms the space a little bit. And if you wanted this one to go in front of the barn, we could do all the watercoloring and then stamp this tree last. So all of these are more like they're behind the barn. So, and then this one could come over top. So what do you guys think? Do you want one that kind of comes like it's almost to the side and the leaves are kind of coming over the barn a little bit? If you want that, you just have to remember, once you're done stamping, you remove this masking so that your leaves will overlap a little bit. So I'm going to use this on these three, and I'll let you guys decide on that one. So I need a block here, and I need to pick some colors. Look how many, I don't know, you guys cannot see. I have crushed curry, Mango Melody, Cherry Cobbler, Cajun Craze, Mossy Meadow, Pumpkin Pie, Basic Gray. I used that for the roof, and I used Balmy Blue. So I used quite a few colors on this. If you don't have all the same colors, no worries. Use what you have. If you don't have a couple different orange colors or a couple different reds that you can layer, because this stamp is the base stamp, and then it has a layering stamp. So it has this stamp and then this. So you can add a little bit of darker detail on top. But if you don't have two different colors, you could stamp off and just use one color and do the underneath stamped off second generation, and then do the detail that goes on top in the full color. So what do you guys think? I feel like I need to get moving a little bit faster here, and I need to get to watercoloring so then I can show you the other background. So let me grab some blocks here. That's our detail stamp. And man, where's all my little blocks? And then there's our other one. So Pam said she loves my original. And I think I used Cherry Cobbler and Cajun Craze, and these were the yellows. This one I used Pumpkin Pie and Cajun Craze. I've re-inked some of my sets, so hopefully they're going to stamp a little bit darker. But we're going to leave this on until we're done stamping those leaves, because we want to make sure it stays behind the barn. So I stamped this first. So what do you guys think? We don't need those yet. Those are for watercoloring. That's for watercoloring. So do you like all the same colors, or do you want to change it up a little bit? Vicky says Cajun Craze for sure and crushed curry. Excuse me. So I used these two together on my yellow trees, and then I kind of mixed and matched on these. And we're going to use cherry cobbler for the barn. So the barn was cherry cobbler. So I'm just trying to see if I want to do, because this one, I meant for it to look a little bit further back, because this yellow tree, it makes it look like this goes in front of that, which that is okay, but that's something you might want to think about when you're choosing your colors, because the darker colors are going to look like they're in front of the lighter colors. Yes, I love pumpkin pie too on those. This one had pumpkin pie, but it needed re-inked, so you can't really see it. So we could just do this one pumpkin pie and no Cajun Craze, because this is stamped in Cajun Craze as well. And the card base is Cajun Craze. So I definitely got the Cajun Craze in there. Okay, so I'm going to do the bottom stamp in the crushed curry. I'm going to do this one back here first. It doesn't have to be perfect. So there's the crushed curry. And I've got my chamois here because I'm trying to just clean these really quick. We'll see if that works out for me. Yeah, it's hard. It was hard to see, Tracy, just because my ink pad needed re-inked. So it didn't come out quite as orange as I wanted. Now the top, the detailed stamp, I'm doing in the Mango Melody. So it's a little more orangey of a yellow, and I do love this color. And I'm probably not lining this up perfect. That's okay. We just want some leaves on there. Show is up, so if you hear a video game, you know why. I'm going to take these off just so I can pull this around and not get my trees there. So do we want all the same colors as the original in the same order? And make sure this stays down. Because we definitely, now see, I have a little line there, but I think it's okay because there could be no leaves there. But you want to make sure this is stuck down really well along that line. So this one was Cherry Cobbler. Like I said, I've re-inked, so we'll see how they are stamping. Make sure that one's clean, really clean since I did the red. So on this one, if you wanted it to just be the Cherry Cobbler, you could just stamp the detail stamp over top in the same color. I used Cajun Craze on my original. So I'll show you that. I love these two-step stamps where I can kind of mix and match for the fall. And I'm not stamping that exact. I moved it a little bit. So you want one that has green in it. We can try that on the pumpkin pie one. So let me go ahead and stamp this one again. Or we can change it up and we can do you think one yellow tree and you want to switch one to the green and the pumpkin pie? And then do one pumpkin pie and Cajun Craze? What's your vote? Everyone toss your votes out there quickly. Okay, Pam votes 1 green, so I'm gonna go ahead and open my pumpkin pie because I do want so I just re-inked this. I hope it stamps a lot better than it did. Oh yeah, that definitely looks better. Thank you. Stamp up with me. Thanks for joining us. Now I'm going to stamp a green on top of that. And I'm going to stamp this off a little bit just because I have Mossy Meadow, so it's very dark. So I stamped that detail stamp off a little bit. What do you guys think? It's like the tree is just starting to turn. Well, when we watercolor, Vicki, I think the barn is going to have a totally different look than the way the stamped trees look. But yes, if you use more yellows, your barn is definitely going to stand out a little bit more. Pam said they don't have the bright colors. That's my favorite part of fall. Okay, so for this next yellow tree, I'm going to change it up a little bit. So instead of using pumpkin pie and Cajun craze, I'm going to use pumpkin pie and mango melody. So we have a bright orange tree in there. And I'm going to stamp my bottom color with the mango melody. And I don't know if you guys have noticed, when I put this down on my watercolor paper, I'm kind of letting it sit for a while. And you want to make sure that you push well where these connect. Because where that paper is, there's going to be a little bit of a difference in the height of your paper. So that was the mango melody. And then I'm going to do the detailed stamp with the pumpkin pie. So we changed up the colors a little bit. That's okay. I love making fall cards and just really playing with these two stamps and layering it up and seeing, you know, what variants I can get. I know, Tracy, I always say I would love to come down for the fall, especially the Blue Ridge Mountains. That's one of my favorite things is when they're in full fall mode. Love it. All right, I cleaned my stamps. I'm putting those away. Now we're going to watercolor. So I just want to be careful, and this is when I'm watercoloring, anytime that I touch these with water or even the tree part, the bottom part, because I stamped with classic inks, they can react. So I just want to be careful when I get up here and near these areas. And this mask I save and I stick right in my stamp case. All right, so let's get watercoloring because I'm already behind. And we get to do a family reunion today, so I don't want to be running late. I want to make sure I can get my card finished. Oh, you know what? Let me watercolor this, and then I'm going to show you how I stamp the background. That way my watercolor can dry really quick. Okay, so I'm going to bring in that paper towel, and you could do this. I'm going to bring this in just for a little bit of added protection. And I'm going to grab that cherry cobbler, and you can press your ink pad and open it and get ink in your lid. If you can't do that, and I know that's hard, it's hard for me, you can take a block any block, any size block, and dip it into your pad. And once you get a little bit of ink on here, then add your water right onto your block. And then these just clean up with soap and water. So you can do it that way as well. I'm just going to go right into my ink pad because I like to pull color off of my ink pad too. So I'm just adding a drop of water with my water painter. I'm using the medium size and I'm getting that all thinned out. Now I haven't wet, this isn't wet at all. So when I put this down, it's not going to start going everywhere right away. So I'm just kind of putting it on really quick, trying not to get out of the lines. And I'm going to come back in with the smaller brush and add in some details. You could do it with just one brush, but I find I can kind of throw my color on a little faster with this one. And then I come back and add detail with the smaller one. And because we use that brown stays on, this isn't smearing when I go over top of it. So all those details from the stamped image stay right there on the paper. So who has tried watercoloring yet? Oh, I love it, Linda. Your sister lives near Tracy. That's awesome. So I'm trying to concentrate as I watercolor, but I'm not very good at going slow. Anybody else have that problem? I tend to be really messy because I don't like to take my time. Pam, you've been watercoloring a lot, or you do all the time? I have been just a little bit more because it's watercolor month, and I do enjoy it sometimes, but it just kind of depends on my mood. Okay, I've got most of this done. So I'm going to take this, and this is how you clean these, and this is why I have this piece over here. You just squeeze this, and as the water drips out, it will start running clear, and then your brush is clean. So easy cleanup. Sometimes it takes a little more with the red. Just be careful when you put the lid back on because I tend to tear up my water painters. I'm trying not to get this too wet over here. Now I'm using this smaller one, and you can just squirt your water right on to your watercolor paper and move around what you already put on there. And then you can also just pick up more. So I'm going to pick up more color here. I'm going to fill in. Fill in those areas. Any areas I want a little bit darker, I'm just going to pick up off my pad, and then it's more concentrated. So it ends up being a little bit darker. And that's how I just made the variations in my barn. So because we're using watercolor paper, you could really get this wet and very saturated because it's going to really take that water and it absorbs it a lot better than the basic white. And this is just going to move around a lot easier too. Vicky's using her pencils. I like to use the pencils as well. Now, when you use the watercolor pencils, you can color them on and then activate them with your water painters. Kind of going over my windows. I'm getting a little messy. That's all right. I was much more careful on my first ones, but this is me. This is the impatient me. Impatient crafter. So I'm just filling in. You don't have to do the barn doors with the red. I did mine. I just like how soft the watercoloring feels. So a lot of the, like the blends, they're just a whole different look. And even I like coloring with the pencils. I think that's a nice soft look too, even if you don't activate them to, you know, be watercolored. And don't forget your little piece clear up here. So you could really work this and, you know, and keep adding color and make dark areas. Like your barn's really worn out. Seeing some sun and lightened in areas. But I am just going to move on. I'm just doing it quick because I need to speed up a little bit. So next, I'm going to do the green, and I'm going to do, then I'm going to do the roof, and then I'm going to do the sky. So the other thing that you can do, and I don't have my re-inker over here, but if you buy the refills for the ink pads, you can just put a little drop in here and use that instead of trying to squeeze your ink pad or putting it on a block. So I'm going to put some water in here and get this moving because it's dried. And I'm using the bigger medium-sized brush, and I'm just kind of just throwing it on. And you can even squeeze some of this. You can squeeze a drop of water onto your paper, and it's going to just move on there a lot easier. And so even if this was intended to be snow in front of your barn, it becomes grass. So I think this stamp set's great, even though it's called Christmas Barn. It has a sleigh and kind of some winter things, but I think this works as well. Now remember, my trees, I used soft suede instead of the StazOn, so you just have to be careful that that's going to smear. And I just kind of went above, like, you know, just pushed my green up a little bit, like it's grown up around those trees. And we're going to cut around this, so I'm not worried about if this is perfect or how it ends. And if you want less water to come back in and create some darker spots, I'm just drying this off. I'm wiping it off so my tip is dry. And then I'm dipping back into that water and then onto my ink pad. And then I'm going to come back in like this and add some darker bits. So you can make it as dark as you want. You can have some light areas. Now, something I forgot to mention is you should let your StazOn dry a little bit before, just a little bit, to make sure that it sets, or hit it with your heat gun. There. There we go. Now I'm just going to clean that brush out. Again, I'm just dripping running water through it and wiping it off, pulling that color out. Now I'm going to use gray, And I'm going to do that roof area. And I'm going to use that the smaller brush, the smallest one. I like watercoloring this way just because you have all the colors available to you when you color with the ink pads. And if you own most of the inks, then you have all the colors. And if you don't, then you've obviously bought colors that are your favorites. So that's why I like to do it with the ink pads. And I want it to be darker, so I'm kind of just pulling it off the pad and using it. I'm concentrating over here, so I'm sorry if I miss something. I'll catch up here in a second. Just trying to get this really dark. There. Now, if you wanted, oops, I missed a little bit of red here. Let's see. I'm just gonna take my wet brush, see if I can activate, whoops, a little bit too much water. Try to activate this red ink up here and pull it down. There we go. That's good. Clean my brush just by squeezing it. Okay, now I'm gonna do the sky and we're gonna let that dry, and then we will do the knit background. So one of my favorite things, I love fall. I love all the colors, but I mostly love the fact that I can start wearing sweaters because that's what I like. So I'm going to be, like I said, really careful around those trees. I'm just adding balmy blue here. Now, on my original, when I used the StazOn, I was not careful at all around those tree trunks because I knew that I had stamped those in an ink that wouldn't smear. But this time I'm just going to be careful. And we're cutting around this, so I'm not worried about it being too perfect. Watercolor is not meant to be perfect anyway. But I do want to be careful because as I add color around these trees, I'm going to be activating this color if I touch it with my water painter. So I'm kind of leaving a little halo there so I don't pull into that ink. And if you do, it's not a huge deal. It's not gonna make or break your card here. And if you want it lighter, then thin your ink out a little bit more. And I'm just kind of doing little circles and just throwing it on there. Because we're gonna cut around it anyways. I'm gonna try to dab a little bit in here or there, so it's like it's coming through my trees. What do you guys think? Just cleaning my brush over here. Yes, Tracy, I agree with all those things. We don't really watch football as much anymore. But yes. Yes to all those things. Okay, I'm just throwing that wet piece over on my Stampin' Scrub so that I don't lay that on anything. I'm going to bring my Stamparatus in and grab a plate for it. Yeah, I love that. The blue makes it pop. And I like balmy blue when I'm doing fall. I mean, I love Pool Party, but that's more of my summer sky color. Balmy blue, I love that for fall. I just do. And for, let me see, for this sweater, I love this background stamp. How many people have this background stamp? It's called Knit Together. I'm just going to throw it on here. We're going to trim down the piece. And this is red rubber, so we don't, let me move my magnets for a second. We don't need this foam piece in here. And I just have a piece of Very Vanilla. I don't even know. I think it's 2.5 by, actually, I think I did this one wider. Let's see. Nope, it's the same size. So this is 2.5. And I think it's by 5.5. I had these for something. And we're just going to stamp it and then cut it down. So you can see where I've already stamped my previous ones. I'm just going to lay that down on there. And I'm using Cajun Craze. Cajun, that's probably one of my favorite colors for fall. And so because we're stamping this on Very Vanilla, you know, that's the color that comes through. But you could also stamp this on like Mango Melody. If you wanted a yellow tone in there, you could stamp this pattern onto a Mango Melody piece and get a little more color. Now you notice I didn't put a magnet or anything down because this is a big background stamp and my little piece is smaller than this. You can also just rub this right onto the stamp like this. I'm not worried about if it's perfect. So there's our piece. I'll clean that later. I'm just going to toss that to the side. Now we're going to trim this down. And I just have my watercolor piece off to the side. It's drying. So let's see. It took me a little bit. I cut this a couple times, so I don't remember. It looks like 3.5. And all I did was cut a slit up and go corner to corner to create my banner. So I'm going to cut this to 3.5. And then I'll show you how I did that. And if you do it portrait size, you might want a bigger piece, a longer piece. Thank you, Linda. And I have, somewhere I have my other bits and pieces, what I do with them. I have this piece. So this is 3.25 by 5. That's this piece that I have it on. Then we're going to cut this to go right here, and we're going to cut a little banner. You don't have to do that. If you like it just square, you can leave it square. I just like the look of the fishtail banner. What do you guys think? You okay? You want to see it bannered or make it into a banner or leave it straight? Okay, this is pretty dry, so I'm going to go ahead and cut around this with my scissors. So all I did for this is I just started cutting. And I did get it a little too close. I did the same thing on the other one. That's all right. So you can leave as much as the sky as you want, or you can get it really tight to your tree, whatever you prefer. Mine definitely does not turn out perfect. Oh, I got that a little too rough. You could tear it if you like that kind of look. You could do that. You could do it however you like. Now on my other one, I actually used our old corner rounder that Stampin' Up! Used to sell. Or you can just trim this down because you want it to fit on here. So depending on how big you want this is going to hang off of this a little bit. But then the banner will show. So depending on how long you want this, and I want mine kind of short because I want more of the banner to show. So you can cut it, like I said, as close as you'd like. Okay, so to do the banner, I did actually measure this on the back because I wanted it to be pretty even. It's kind of a focal point. So I used my pencil and I used my grid paper. And we know that this is 2.5. So I did, I think it's, what is that? 1 1/4. And I drew this on the back. So I just drew a line so that I could cut up the middle and cut as far as you like. And then I went from corner to that middle cut. I cut far enough. And then I did from this corner. And then when I turn it over, there's a banner. So it might not be exactly perfect, but that's what I did. And because this pattern that I stamped is really dark, I couldn't see a pencil line, so that's why I did it on the back. And then this goes on this side. Now, do you guys want to do, this is on Cajun Craze. Do you guys want to do it on Cajun Craze? Let me grab my colors here. Got some different colors for you to choose. So I've got Cherry Cobbler. I've got Cajun Craze, because we're ready to assemble. I also have, one of my samples had soft suede. So I do like to use soft suede. So this one's on Very Vanilla. Where'd my other 2 cards go? This one's on Cherry Cobbler, and this one's on the soft suede. So what do you guys think? Which color would you like to choose? So this is very tone on tone, and I would still put my Very Vanilla layer in there. Or there it is on Cherry Cobbler. What do you guys think? Can you guys see? So it would be like this. Remember, this is going to hang off a little bit and come over here towards the edge of the card. Here's the original on Cajun Craze. And then we've got soft suede. And one of the reasons I like to use neutrals like this is because all those vibrant colors that we used are going to pop really well. And then the last thing we got to choose is, would you guys like to do a birthday card I do have a little strip here that we can stamp. We can stamp thank you. We can stamp happy birthday. If you have a fall wedding and they like, a lot of people get married in barns now, you could do best wishes and make this a wedding card. I was married in the fall. We did all fall colors. I love the burnt oranges, the dark oranges. I love the beautiful yellows and reds. And so all of my flowers were those colors, and all of our decorations were fall. And so this would be very appropriate for a fall wedding. I see a lot of soft suedes. Okay. So let's go with soft suede. It does help those colors. So we're going to start assembling. I'm going to start assembling this, and let me know what greeting you would like to see on this. So I have the greetings from here, and I would like to do one of these that's skinny so I can use up a strip. And then I also have in this Beauty of Friendship, there's a thank you. There's also thinking of you. So what kind of card would you guys like to make? And I'm going to start adhering everything. So I'm going to put this down. I also have a piece of this Very Vanilla for the inside. You could easily stamp a tree on there, another one of these trees, to make it coordinate. So this, here's my original, is up on dimensionals. So I'm going to go ahead and adhere this down flat with my glue, my liquid glue. And I'm just kind of putting it close to this left edge over here. So that represents our fall sweater and all those things we love about fall. And I love fall colors. Looking for my dimensionals here. So I'm just going to turn this over. Somehow I have glue all over me. That's good. And I'm going to put this off to the right-hand side. Just pulling all those backings off. I can't tell if anyone has decided what greeting. So I'm putting this so it hangs kind of off the top and off this side. It's almost lining up with this, oops, this edge here. I wanted to go past my card. And then our greeting's going to go right here. And I picked the short thank you originally because I didn't want to cover up too much of my barn. But if you have any boo-boos, this is a great way to cover up. Maybe you watercolor a little bit outside the lines and you don't like how it looks after it dried. You could use your greeting to cover it up. Oh, true, Pam. True. So Tracy votes happy birthday or best wishes. Let's do best wishes. I do have... At first I was about to be like, where is that? I thought that was all one greeting there. Let's do the best wishes. Because I did do a birthday, so... Now, here's the last choice. Cajun Craze ink, like I used on the original, or soft suede. What do you think? Cajun Craze or soft suede? Let me find my And of course, you could use a different color. If you wanted to bring back in the red, you could use whatever color you wanted. I think really all of them would go very well with it. You could match more of the base. That's what I did on the original card. I used Cajun Craze for the base, so I used Cajun, gosh, I can't even talk this morning, Cajun Craze for my greeting. Soft suede. All right, so we're going to stamp best wishes in soft suede. And I'm just using up one of those very vanilla strips from all of those layers that I cut. So this is a great way. And I'm not going to get all fancy. I am just going to trim this off with my snips as straight as I can, or you could do an angle. You could certainly get fancy and angle it. And I'm going to use a dimensional out here, and then we're going to use a glue dot to adhere it with the barn. So what do you guys think? Who has bought a Christmas barn? It's certainly not just for Christmas. I hope you guys have enjoyed the watercoloring and all the different things. I tried to jam pack this card to really step it up. We've got layers. We've got all kinds of things on here. So I just grabbed a glue dot. I have a glue dot on one end and a dimensional where it's going to hang off. And I'm just going to overlap that a little bit. Like that. I want that to show. So there we have it. So to recap what we used today, here's my, here's the card we did. Here's the original, and here are some other samples. This is another one I made using the watercolor technique. This was the watercolor pencils without activating them. Or I'm sorry, this was blends. Take that back. This was the watercolor pencil without activating them. And I used the Christmas barn. This does have dies, so if you have a cut and emboss machine, make sure you get this as a bundle so you save 10%. Oh, you probably can't post it while I'm live, Vicki, but when I finish and it posts to the page, then you should be able to share a picture. Unless Facebook changed that. I used Beauty of Friendship for my trees because these have layering stamps, and so you can use 2 colors. And for my greetings, I used Happiness Abounds, and the thank you is from Beauty of Friendship. I used lots of colors today. Soft Suede, Cajun Craze, Pumpkin Pie, Mango Melody, Crushed Curry, Balmy Blue, Basic Gray, Mossy Meadow, and Cherry Cobbler. And I used the medium and small water painter. These come in a set of 3, so you can do lots of fun techniques with those. And I used the Saddle Brown Stays On ink. You will need the Stays On cleaner for this ink. And I used the chamois and the Stamp and Mist and Stamp and Scrub. So if you guys have any questions about the cards or need any advice on what to use or what to get, please let me know. I'm happy to help. Thank you all for joining me today. If you need any Stampin' Up products, you can go to stampandcreatewithbeth.com, and that goes to my online store, and you can buy any of these Stampin' Up products. I also used Very Vanilla cardstock as well as the Fluid 100 watercolor paper. I love Beauty of Friendship. I've had it since it came out. It's a gorgeous stamp set, and I love it because it is great for all seasons. You can use it all year long. Vicki, I am sure your barn is just as beautiful. We all have different ways of crafting, and they're all awesome when they turn out. Thank you, Tracy. Pam, if you need to get this set, Beauty of Friendship. It's awesome. You'll use it all the time. It's just gorgeous. You can use it for all of your trees. Love it. So thank you all for joining me. I truly appreciate all the time that you spend with me. I hope you have a lovely weekend, and I'll see you guys soon. Take care.